In this lesson, we're going to talk about teaching tactics versus teaching strategy or pedagogy or methodology. There's a difference. I'm going to give you a little bit of an analogy. If a general is confronted with a battle tomorrow morning, his strategy may be to attack the right flank, or that's his strategy. He figures that the easiest place to attack, that's where he wants to go. That's his strategy. That's his basic methodology. But now he has to come up with tactics. Who attacks? When do they attack? Does he feint to the left first? What's he do to make this strategy work? So a coach decides as a football coach, hey, the way to beat this team is to throw deep. Okay, fine. Well, exactly how? Which plays are you going to call? In what order are you going to call them? So what happens is a lot of people who believe that they understand teaching confuse the two, and all they have is their toolbox full of tactics, but they don't have a strategy. So a toolbox is great. We need to have a toolbox full of tactics, but you have to have a strategy. So let's talk about a strategy in terms of teaching, or a pedagogy. And that's going to be a system of teaching that's built on the principles of how people learn and how people learn best. So that's what we're going to work on. You can't just have a little, hey, I'm going to show them this and I'm going to show them that. There's another analogy that might be of interest. If Toyota or Ford or Lexus or somebody decided they were going to build an entire car and then check it when it was done, how many errors would they have? They build the car one step at a time and check it. So they build the chassis, and then they check all the welds to make sure the welds are good. Then they put on the motor and make sure the mounts are good. And then they put on the next part and the next part, and at every stage they're building it. If we taught like that, more like that in casting, we wouldn't have to rely on Bruce Richards' system so much. Bruce Richards' system was designed to correct errors after the product is finished. So if you're teaching and you've picked up a new student, a new client, and that person's got a bunch of errors already ingrained in them, you don't have a choice. You have to use Bruce Richards' system to figure out what error to try to correct. But even then, you can go back to basic drills. You can use some of the basic strategies that we're talking about in order to make it work. So we're going to talk about that a little bit in this section. There's no need for Bruce Richards' system if you build your own student. In other words, if I start from scratch with a student, I'm not going to have to worry about the fact that they're creeping, because we're going to build creep out of that student as we go. The creep is going to be maybe for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and we're going to get rid of it. It's not going to be for 2 years, and now we have to deal with creep because it's ingrained in their muscle memory, if we want to talk about that. So that's what we're going to be talking about in this section. So we're going to give you the basic roots of a good lesson plan. Now, before we go, let me just add a caveat to this. A good lesson plan is one that's ideal. That doesn't mean that we can always follow a good lesson plan. When I've got somebody show up on my river and I'm going to guide him or her, and they show up, last year I had a family of 4 who had never fly fished before. Obviously, they do not want to spend the first 4 hours of their guiding day sitting on the grass at the park learning how to cast. So I've got to take them to the river and get them to cast. And and every one of them caught fish. What did I teach them? I taught them how to do a roll cast. That's all I taught them. They did a roll cast and they did a water mend. That's it. And they managed to catch fish. If I'd have given them the 5-hour lesson on casting, they wouldn't have caught any more fish. So understand that what I'm talking about, this lesson plan, is the ideal lesson plan given that, assuming that we have a student who's going to be ours for an hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, or whatever. If I have a student who wants to pass their MCI or the CI, and they say, Dale, I'd like you to coach me 2 hours a week for the next 6 months. Man, that's heaven for me. Now I can do things exactly right. But if a person says, hey, I'm going to the Bahamas next week and I need to learn how to double cast or double haul, man, you know what? That's not an ideal situation. I'm going to do the best I can. But I'm still going to pay attention to trying to do first things first, second things second, third things third. So we're going to go through the lesson plan now.